reading Earth's Changes, which is on pages 18 or starts on pages 18 and 19 in your close reader. So please grab your close reader and a pencil so that you are ready to follow along and annotate with me. In this first section here, it's our introduction, and I want you to look for the key details. There's a lot of other interesting facts and tidbits in this section, but I really want you to focus on the key details that really need to stick in your brain to help you understand the rest of the text. So here we go, Earth's Changes.
Remember to annotate as you read.
Earth's Changes by Louise Carroll. Introduction. Water and wind are important elements for our daily lives. Water is in rivers, lakes, and oceans. More than 2/3 of the world is water. Wind is moving air. The air is all around us. Water and wind are also very powerful forces of nature. They shape our world. Over time, flowing water wears away the surrounding rock and soil. When water wears away Earth's surfaces, it is called erosion. Strong winds also can cause erosion. Erosion changes the way Earth looks. Storms bring strong winds and a lot of rain. They can also change the way our planet looks.
Okay, so let's take a look back. What did you find as key details in this section? I thought that this first sentence here, water and wind are important elements of our daily lives. I felt like that was an important point that the author wanted to make. But then that water and wind are also very powerful forces of nature. So we're learning about how the earth changes, and that's through the power of water and wind. So I think that's going to be a key detail as well. At the next, or in the next section, it says, when water wears away Earth's surfaces, it is called erosion. Anytime there's a word that's defined in the text like this, it usually means it's pretty important. So I'm going to go ahead and underline that, and then also this next part, strong winds can cause erosion, and erosion changes the way that Earth looks. This is what the rest of the text is going to be about. You can even see this next section here is called How Does Water Change Earth? So I think this is going to be a key detail as well. Okay, so now we're ready for our next section. Again, we're going to be looking for those key details so that at the end we'll be able to pull out our main idea.
How does water change Earth? Earth has oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams. Most of the time, these waters flow smoothly. Ocean water slowly wears away the shoreline. Ocean waves crashing against rocks can also cause erosion. Moving water slowly carves the edges of a riverbank. The Grand Canyon in Arizona was formed this way millions of years ago by the flowing water of the Colorado River.
Grand Canyon.
So for this section, the title of the section is How Does Water Change Earth? It asks us a question. So the key detail from this section is probably going to be one that responds to that or answers that question. So she talks about how Earth has oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams. Most of the time they flow smoothly. They can wear away at the shoreline. Moving water slowly carves out the edges of a riverbank. The Grand Canyon in Arizona was formed by this way millions of years ago by the flowing water of the Colorado River. So how does water change Earth? So ocean water can slowly wear away at the shoreline. That's part of the answer to how does water change Earth. Ocean waves crashing against rocks can also cause erosion. And then moving water slowly carves out the edges of a riverbank. Okay, and then it talks about the Grand Canyon in Arizona being formed that way millions of years ago by the flowing water of the Colorado River. Let's go ahead and move forward so that we can finish out this section. We have one more paragraph.
Floodwaters damage homes and cars.
Sometimes water can change the land in a short amount of time. Storms can bring so much rain that rivers and lakes overflow. The water runs over the land. This is called a flood. Floodwater pushes things in its way. The land changes from the force of the moving water.
Okay, so remember we're still answering the question from the last page. How does water change the earth? So in this paragraph, it talks about how we can have floods, right? So when water runs over the land, it's called a flood. And it says flood water pushes things in its way. The land changes from the force of the moving water. So that part's answering part of that question. And the reason that happens is that storms can bring so much rain that rivers and lakes overflow. So we need that part of the answer as well. So that was how water changes Earth. So ocean water can wear away shorelines and crash against rocks. Rivers can carve out the edges of a riverbank and even make canyons. And floods can also change the landscape of the earth in a very quick amount of time, right? You can see that in the picture up here that it's damaging homes and cars, and it's very dangerous, and that happens super quickly before people have time to usually prepare for it. So now we're moving on to look at how the wind changes earth. Again, since our section has a question, right? We've got a question mark here. We're going to be looking for the answer to that as we listen to this next section. So see if you can find the answer to how wind changes the earth.
How does wind change earth? The wind can be a gentle breeze. It can feel good when it blows on your face. Wind blows against rocks and soil too. It lifts small bits and carries them elsewhere. The bits are often too small to see or feel. Wind can change the shape of a rock. It can change the shape of a sand dune. The results of wind erosion can look very weird and very beautiful. However, wind erosion is not good for farmers' crops. Wind blows away the top layer of soil. That layer has things in it that help plants grow.
Wind makes sand piles at the beach. Arches National Park, Utah.
So again, we are looking for the answer to this. How does wind change the earth? This first paragraph here talks about the actual way that it does. So it blows against rocks and soil, lifts the bits, and carries them elsewhere. So that's how it changes the earth. But then down here, it's more specific. It says it can change the shape of a rock or of a sand dune. And then it also says that wind erosion is not good for farmers' crops because it blows away the topsoil. And they need that part. So in this section, it talks about kind of like the last one where it talked about changing the shoreline and rocks and making canyons, making beautiful things. But then the negative part of that is the flooding. Same thing here. We've got, good things that shaping these beautiful sand dunes. Wind made this arch here just by blowing bits of sand and rock on it over a long amount of time. But the downfall to wind erosion is that it can hurt farmers' crops. So now we're looking at kind of how to find a solution for the erosion types that are not good. So the ones that cause problems.
How can we control water and wind? Water and wind can cause a lot of damage to Earth. They can cause damage to people's things too. Scientists have figured out many ways to try to lessen the damage.
Hurricane Katrina caused rivers in New Orleans, Louisiana to flood. This caused a lot of damage to the city. Walls called levees were built higher to better protect New Orleans in the future.
Walls can be built around rivers that flood when it rains heavily. A wall can also keep ocean waves from striking land. Sometimes homes are built close to shore. A wall can keep them safe from ocean water. A wall of trees can help slow wind erosion. It can help keep farmers' crops healthy. The trees can block the wind from blowing away the crops.
Okay, so again, we're trying to answer this. How do we control it? We've learned that wind and water can cause a lot of damage. That's our problem, right? And so they've found some ways to try to help that. So one was walls can be built around rivers that flood when it rains heavily. And it can also help ocean waves, right? So wall is a big one. Wall of trees can help slow wind erosion. So it can help keep the farmers' crops healthy. The trees can block the wind from blowing away the crops. So there's two ways that you can control water. You can build a wall around water like this. Could be a rock wall, could be a cement wall. And then you can also do a wall of trees to help slow wind erosion. So now let's wrap this up with our conclusion. Again, we're going to be looking for those key details.
Conclusion. Water and wind can wear away Earth's surface. They can change the way Earth looks. Some of the changes are brought about by erosion. Storms can have strong winds and cause flooding. Strong winds and floods can change and damage Earth's surface as well as people's possessions.
River in Scandinavia. Maria Island, Tasmania, Australia.
Erosion and storms occur naturally. They are nature at work. Sometimes beautiful canyons are created. Sometimes rocks with amazing shapes are formed. Sometimes things can get damaged. Scientists are working hard to find ways to lessen the damage that water and wind can cause.
Okay, so this was kind of the main point here. Water and wind can wear away at Earth's surface, right? That's what our whole text has been about. And some of those are erosion. We can have flooding that causes damage. And then it says, I thought this was important, erosion and storms occur naturally. Because the flowing water and blowing wind, those aren't really things that are controlled or caused by people. You can kind of change the trajectory of a river, but for the most part, those are just things that already occur in nature. And so they're just doing their job, right? They're doing their part of nature. So sometimes you get something beautiful, right? And sometimes things can get damaged. So I think that's kind of the main idea of this paragraph here. Sometimes beautiful canyons are created, or rocks with amazing shapes. Sometimes things can get damaged. Scientists are working hard to find ways to lessen the damage that water and wind cause. So if I look back, we had a few different sections here. We found out what erosion was. We learned about how water changes the earth, how wind changes the earth, how we can control water and wind, and then we wrapped it all up. And if I look back at the things that I have underlined, the main idea is really right here. Water and wind can wear away at Earth's surface. And the other thing I think that is the main topic, or what the author was wanting us to get at, is that erosion can be really wonderful and beautiful, like in this picture of Maria Island. And it can also be very devastating and cause a lot of damage. Like here we see homes that were hurt during Hurricane Katrina when it flooded. So I would say the main topic of Earth's changes, or main idea, what the whole thing is about, is that water and wind change the shape of the Earth. They can change it quickly, they can change it slowly, they can change it for the good, and they can change it for the bad. And that scientists are working for ways to find, to help lessen some of the bad. All right, so you're going to do your response in schoolwork to Earth's changes.